All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ruby Rogues podcast. I'm your host today, Valentino Stoll, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Pete. Pete, I'm forgetting your last name. Do you want to introduce
Yeah,
yourself and why you're famous, and we can get into why we had you on?
yeah. Hi everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Pete Matsuburka, and I'm Ruby developer. And I have a bunch of open source project written on Rails, which is MotorAdmin, DocuSeal, which is the most recent one. And that's probably it, I guess, about me. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. We noticed that you have a couple open source projects. Quite a few actually. But the two that stuck out to me, at least, DocuSeal, which is kind of like a open source document signing, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm guessing to compete with DocuSign. Is there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that on purpose?
Yeah, it's not like on purpose. It's more like the name, DocuSeal. So basically, the word seal means two. It has two meanings, right? Seal the animal, sea seal, and then seal like digital seal or like digital stamp, which is digital seal. So it's like a fun word to use for document signing and for something legal related. So, and basically, seal logo is our mascot. So it's like animal, basically, it's our mascot. So I just thought it's like a nice word to use, and obviously docu because it's documents. So that's what it means, I guess, regarding the name of the project.
Yeah, super cute logo of the seal. Love it.
Yeah.
Document signing is like pretty huge, right? Like if you're trying to do anything legal, it's definitely. I know I've implemented like just a HTML5 scribble, log the IP address kind of thing before a long time ago. So I'm curious, like what got you interested in like making something like this, and how does it all work?
Mm. Yeah. So maybe the thing is that like I've been interested building some open source like project for a while, and I've been searching for different ideas, like what I can build, what's easy to build, and what can be potentially become a commercial project, right? So with open source core, but then like trying to commercialize some, some enterprise product on top of that for companies. And yeah, I've been just basically, it's not just me, it's also Alex, my good friend. We are working together on this project. He started it, I joined later this year, but we've been discussing a lot about different ideas, open source ideas, like to build and to implement using Ruby on Rails, of course. And I don't know, somehow we've been just discussing it, trying different, just walking through different existing products that are available. And we found out that there are no open source like document signing tools. Like literally, there were no, like at the time when we've been searching for, we were not able to find at least one good open source document signing tool. And that was it. That's how it started, basically. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, usually that's when there's a need, that's when the magic happens, right?
Yeah, actually, it was. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're
Actually,
good.
it was really. I was really surprised because there were a lot of questions on Reddit, like people asking on different like subreddits, like self-hosted subreddit, open source subreddit. There were like a lot of questions, people asking for open source self-hostable document signing, and there are no good alternatives. There were no good answers. So it was another reason why this project was started. Was it's actually those Reddit questions and comments and just people searching for this type of open source project. So yeah, just yeah, Reddit also played an important role in this DocuSeal project. Yeah.
Nice. So I'm curious how that exactly works. Like you post on Reddit, hey, is there this thing that exists? And then
Mhm,
people are like, no, or here's something close, and then it just snowballs
mhm.
into, oh, let me create something. Like what are the steps for that? I'm super curious, like how that
Yeah,
process evolved.
that's basically it. There are like basically on Reddit there are subreddits related to different topics, and the most popular one is self-hosted subreddit. So basically, on this subreddit, people are sharing or searching for some open source and self-hosted tools. Let's say it's uh, self-hosted Google Docs. There are a bunch of alternatives, right? LibreOffice, I mean not Libre, but OpenOffice, if I recall, and then Nextcloud, and, and type, you know, those type of projects are listed on those subreddits, and basically people discuss their findings, ask questions, search for projects. So yeah, definitely Reddit is really good source for like open source projects promotion. I would say discussing it, finding what you need, let's say for your company, for your business. Uh, so yeah,
So
uh,
the process, I'm guess I'm trying to follow, like, so you found like, okay, this need is missing an answer, right? Like, uh, started to create like a sample open source project, and then you just say, hey, in the same subreddits, like, how is this work for you, kind of thing. Like, how does that process
yeah,
evolve?
yeah. So first version of DocuSeal was built in July this year, uh, and it was basically released on open source subreddit. Like not like first release was open source subreddit post, and the thing is that basically it received a lot of votes, a lot of comments. People started noticing it, and then someone reposted this DocuSeal open source project on Hacker News. It was not us, because on Hacker News, usually like companies, startups, they're trying to post their tools, their open source projects, and that's how it works, right? But it was not us posting on Hacker News; it was someone else, and it was like, uh, it was we didn't expect that, we were not prepared for that, and that Hacker News post received like probably 700 upvotes and
Wow.
200 comments, which is a lot uh, on
How
Hacker
do you
News.
how do you even deal with that kind of response? Like, is that like
Yeah,
a
it
few
was a
weeks
mess.
process of trying to respond to everybody, or do you just put
Ah,
your hands up in the air and say, oh, I'll let them just let other people comment, right?
yeah, actually, it was a mess. We were not prepared for that. Didn't know how to reply to those questions, but we tried our best to do that. I don't know what to say. But yeah, it was good. Uh, we can complain. We received, the project received decent traction from that Hacker News post, which was triggered by Reddit post, and that's basically how how we are still working on this project. Given all the traction we received, all users, customers, and everything. So yeah, can't complain.
Well,
Yeah.
cool. So let's take a step back here, right? And talk about kind of what all the things that it saw, because it's pretty cool. It's a Rails app, from what I see here. Uh, and it's just a way to, is this like an engine, a Rails engine that people can plug into their existing Rails app, or is it a standalone service that you can kind of just run your own document signing? Uh, what is the overall like architecture of the open source
Mhm.
project?
Yeah, that's a standalone Rails application. You can deploy it on your Heroku, DigitalOcean, Amazon EC2, uh, and that's basically self-hosted open source DocuSign. You can just upload your documents, put signature field, put date field. You can connect SMTP to send emails, and that's how you basically send signature requests to your customers, and they sign it, and you receive signed documents. So yeah, that's not a gem, that's not a plugin, that's just standalone app deployed using Docker.
That's awesome. So you just upload whatever document or image or whatever it may be, and then you kind of can customize all the signable or fields that you want to put on
Mhm,
the form itself. Yeah, that's really
mhm,
neat.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the interface here for it, and it's pretty wild. Um, yeah, so I mean, what's involved? Like, is this what you do all for all day long, work for you, or is this like kind of just for fun? Uh, how does this fit into your overall day to day?
Mhm,
Because I'm always curious, like how people like evolve their open source, right? Like, okay, you put this like thing together, like maybe you're using it, right? For your own company or company you work for, right? Uh, at what point does it become kind of like, too much for yourself?
mhm. Yeah, so it's been for a while it was just open source project, but actually in November we started commercializing it. So basically now it's company, DocuSeal LLC company. We have 3 people working on this project, and yeah, and we have companies using it, and we are bootstrapped, so we are not taking VC money. That's our choice, and we believe we hope it will work. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's basically what DocuSeal is currently.
That's awesome. So how did the whole thing start, right? Like, at what point are you like, "Oh, I can really make money on this idea," right? And how does that transition work? Like, is it
Mm,
very was that a very, like, straightforward, "Oh, this just makes sense. We can, pay for
mm,
people to host it on
mm,
whatever services that we want?" Like, did you have other people already, that were interested in joining and forming a company, How did that all evolve?
mm. Yeah, to be honest, it was built. Uh, you know, of course, we built this project with the end goal to commercialize it, but we didn't know if this is possible, right? So we just built MVP, uh, and just as then Reddit happened, Hacker News happened, we received some traction, and then we figure out, okay, maybe it's possible to commercialize it given all the interest the project received. And yeah, basically based on the customer feedback, based on user feedback, we learned what we need to develop next, which features are needed for businesses to sign documents better than DocuSign or anyone else. And yeah, and that's how we started the company from this DocuSeal open source project.
That's awesome. Good for you. I'm always happy to see, open source actually like fueling business, um, because you don't get to see that often, right? Like usually you create this open source project and then just people use it and abuse you. uh, so I guess, you going into it, expecting commercialization, that's definitely a huge, advantage on your side. Um, So it's really interesting. So like how do you balance that commercialization aspect with the open source? Right? Like where do you find have you found your like
Mhm.
shifting focus based on what the open source demand is versus like the business demand? And like how are you kind of like a balancing that?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say it's pretty simple. So if you are using open source, you are using the software as it is, with our DocuSeal logo, with our DocuSeal attribution and everything. Our logo is really good. It's cute seal, so you can use it for free, right? And this basically helps us with network effect, right? Because if more people use it for free, it's open source, more people will know about the project because they see our DocuSeal logo, our attribution. So that's how more people will get familiar with the software. But if you're a company, you probably want to put your own logo. So your customers see your logo and they sign documents for you, right? and that's actually how we commercialize it, right? So if you want more personalized look when signing documents, if you want embedding APIs, let's say, to develop document signing in your SaaS platform. So basically, that's how we can help. We can help companies to develop document signing for them, completely white labeled, and usually it's much cheaper than using some other large alternatives. And also, we are available in the cloud as well, so people can use it in the cloud. But if they want to self-host DocuSeal with more features like API embedding, their own logo, it's also possible. That's probably it, I guess.
So when you say like API embedding, those aren't available on the open source version?
No, APIs are available. You can use APIs to send signature requests, but with our DocuSeal logo. So
I gotcha.
the more emails you send via API with our logo, that's better for the project, right? Because more people will know about it. But if you want send using API with your own logo, then you need to choose commercial version.
So I see you're using Turbo for some things. How has that experience been? And I do see Tailwind too. Like, is that your like kind of go-to setup at this point? I'm curious what your experience is with that.
Yeah, just 2 words, Turbo. 3 words actually. Turbo is amazing. Like, it's the best front-end library human was able to create, like, literally. I was not able to find something better in terms of like ideas, in terms of development speed than Turbo for front end. And also, it comes also with Rails, how fast and efficient it is to develop, HTML pages in Rails. And then with Turbo, you can easily, to make it more dynamic, right? So that's the purpose of Turbo. So you don't need to write a lot of JavaScript for dynamic content, but you use Turbo, you send HTML to your front end, and then Turbo updates it and does everything for you, right? I know. Turbo was a really, I know, like that's a really important part of our project. And I will actually, I'm glad that you asked about Turbo, because actually we extended Turbo with another feature called InstaClick. This like really old feature used by Dev2 website. If you know, this like Dev2, like Facebook for developers.
Yep.
Right.
I was going to ask about that. I saw that in the application JS here. Is the InstaClick, like what is that?
Yeah. So basically we extended Turbo TypeScript version. Basically we just added some patch to be able to implement this InstaClick functionality. And basically what it does is that when you hover on a link, it preloads it. So let's say you hovered on a button, it opens modal window using Turbo HTML, but you hovered on it and it's already preloaded. So when you click on it, you show the changes on your screen instantly. And also if you navigate pages, also navigation is instantaneous, because on hovering on links, they are preloaded. And that's how we made our app work really smooth, right, with this InstaClick preloading.
Yeah, that's really
cool.
And
actually, by the way, another developer noticed this work, and he has been working on a pull request, and actually, hopefully, it will become a part of Turbo 8, this InstaClick feature. So more projects will be able to use it.
So did you get any like were there any kind of like things throttling your progress when you were like diving into Turbo? Like, were you already familiar with it? I'm curious, like, if there's like any hesitation you would say, when suggesting it, or if it's just like, just go do it because this is kind of the path, the future, right?
Yeah, I was familiar with Turbo. So for DocuSeal, it was super easy to use it. Yeah, in general, it's like super easy to use Turbo. I don't know. It's much easier than React, Vue.js. You don't need to learn anything. It's just HTML over JavaScript, like, or I don't know. It's like super easy to use.
So I'm curious, like, you have like a WYSIWYG editor, right? Like, what, how much of it? I guess I'm curious, like, uh, do you find the JavaScript aspect to be the bigger hurdle at this point, than all the backend, like serialization and things like that? Like, where did you find the most of your time was spent while building it out?
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, actually, it's really hard to answer this question. Maybe, yeah, I don't recall actually what was the hardest part.
Yeah, I just think
Maybe.
like if I'm gonna like create the API aspect for a particular thing, like maybe say like the adding a user or something like that, uh, you know, do you just use like Rails generators and then like hook up the turbo side to it like pretty easily? Like where does the slowdown start to happen as the Rails app starts to evolve?
Mm,
I'm always curious where other people's
yeah,
slowdown is.
yeah, I don't know. I would say we don't have slowdowns, like literally. That's like too naive to say. I understand that it sounds too naive, but like really, we've been developing it so fast. I don't remember any slowdowns. Like we just, if we need something to build, usually on the next day we have it available and released. I don't know. Usually that's how easy it is to develop using Rails, using all the Gems ecosystem available. We don't spend time of JSON, like front end, like all the stuff. We just render static HTML using Rails. Turbo makes it all dynamic, and it's super easy to develop. I don't know. Yeah.
So what was something like, I guess, in the Rails stack that, like, aside from Turbo, right, that just made building this out really quick for you and straightforward? Like what I'm always curious like what people's like, you know, uh where are the best tools in the Swiss Army knife?
Mm. Yeah, maybe, actually, maybe working with PDFs. So basically, for document signing, we need to work with PDFs. And actually, yeah, to be honest, that's a complex part. Like really working with PDFs, it's not easy. There are different PDFs formats. Some legacy outdated PDFs you need to support for document signing. Some broken PDFs, you need to sign them as well, because for some reason people have some broken PDFs with broken layouts, for example. So yeah, like front end, like CRUD operations, that's easy. Rails does that. We use Turbo, static rendering. But yeah, working with PDFs, it's kind of complex just because it's PDF, just complex format.
Yeah, I see you went with the Hexa PDF gem. Uh, has it been like kind of straightforward to use? I haven't used that gem in quite a while.
Mhm. Yeah, actually, Hexa PDF, like really great gem, like amazing work. So yeah, it helps us a lot. But yeah, even with this like really great gem, it's still complex. But yeah,
I don't
still, we
I
are
don't ever
super
want to
lucky.
do templates with PDFs again, to be honest. So,
Yeah, actually, we do this. We do this in the project. But yeah, actually, we are super lucky having Hexa PDF and having other great Ruby gems. And I don't think like Python or Node.js, like large ecosystem, have such good tools. Ruby actually does have. So yeah, regarding Ruby ecosystem with all libraries, gems, like literally, we're super lucky.
Yeah.
There's
So
no
what
reason to
other? I'm
complain.
curious. Like, what other gems have been helpful with working with the PDFs? Because I'm, I'm a little old school with like Wicked PDF as an example from like generated PDFs from HTML or something like that. What did you reach for that ended up like working best for you?
Yeah. So actually, yeah, we are not using gems, but we are using two other tools when working with PDF. So first tool is called gosh, I don't remember exactly. Let me check. It's something like Paddle. No, it's not Paddle. Okay, so it's like Linux PDF viewer. Poplar. Oh, okay, it's called Poplar. So with this tool, we generate images from PDF pages. And basically, we display those images previews on web pages, right? So users can, instead of let's say downloading 20 megabytes of PDF, they can just download one page image, which is 20, maybe 100 kilobytes, and that's it. So they can start signing the document. So we use this to generate image previews, right? And also we are using Chromium to generate PDFs from HTML. So it's obvious.
That's awesome. Yeah, use the simplest tools, right? Uh, I mean, so how does the templating work then? Is that also use kind of the same methods, or is that just like overlaid on top? Like, I imagine the positioning would be a little complex. Like,
Mhm.
are you just
Yeah,
focusing on the front end for that, or how does that work?
yeah. That's a good question because you're right. Positioning fields, that's a complex problem. Some companies use APIs and they ask their customers to specify pixel positions of the fields. It's super complex. We also do this, but it's complex. Another option is to create text tags. Basically, they use curly brackets. It says signature, and then this text is replaced with a field. But still, it's not ideal because it's hard to set proper sizes of those text boxes and everything. And actually, what we did, we created HTML API to create documents, and that HTML API is extended with our own custom HTML tags. And it looks like you just put, let's say, signature field HTML tag in your HTML document, and then you can use CSS to set proper size of that field. And then you send that HTML to our API, and we are able to extract it. And that's how we were able to achieve that pixel perfect positioning of the fields using HTML. And that's pretty much it. We use Chromium for this, some parsing with Ruby to extract those custom HTML tags. And yeah, so probably HTML is the best way to create documents if you need some automation. Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. On a layer on top of the image, trying to rebuild. You're almost like making a virtual DOM out of the document, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. So like, what's next for this DocuSeal? Like, is there like a grand horizon? Like, do you have a planned milestones
Mhm.
to continue developing for the open source project? And is it kind of like in line with your company goals? Like, how does the how does the open source piece of it kind of fit with how the company
Mhm.
grows, right?
Yeah, I would say we are quite humble. We are a small team, and we are not taking VC money, and it means that we can be open source, right? Because if you're taking VC money, it means you want to sell your company eventually. And I don't know how this can align with open source, like literally, like how. And without VC money, it seems safer. We can continue developing open source, and we believe that's more sustainable path, right? Because with open source, we will be able to receive more traction from developers using it, and some of them will eventually start using commercial product, and that's basically how we will be able to fund the development of free open source product and also continue serving our paid customers. So nothing major, I would say. We are small bootstrap team, we are open source, and yeah, that's probably it.
So I'm curious, I see it's mobile optimized. Have you looked into, taking the turbo native approach as a next step? Or would you rather keep things focused, on the web?
Yeah, I would say web is our primary focus. I don't think we need a mobile app for this. And also, actually, with recent iPhone Safari updates, with better, progressive web apps support. So it makes more sense to create progressive web app and make it work really smooth, really nice, and that's probably it. I would say we are not planning to release App Store apps or Android apps. Yeah, web is great. You can do everything on web. I don't know.
Yeah. I asked it just because I'm curious, like, at what point do people make that jump and decide, okay, like this makes sense as an app? And it's good to know that that's always not the case, like it used to be. So, yeah, this is really cool. I'm curious, like, you have a bunch of different deploy options here for how you can get started and deploy right away. Do you find yourself having to like test all of those options out all the time, or do the community members stay on top of that, or how do you manage that? Because I know that you're probably not deploying to all these environments, right?
Yeah, to be honest, we are not testing those deployment options quite often, but it seems like it's working. People are deploying on different platforms. It's Heroku, DigitalOcean, Amazon, Railway. Seems like it works. I don't recall someone reporting that it's not working. There have been some misconfigurations, as usual. We're helping to sort it out. But yeah, you can deploy it on many platforms. Also, we are listed on Cloud Run, which is a platform to deploy self-hosted apps. So yeah, I would say it's easy to deploy it. If you are curious, if our listeners are curious, you can just spend 5 or 10 minutes to deploy it. It should be super easy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, so what's the next big feature, and how do you manage features, right?
Yeah, usually we receive feature requests from users and customers, and it takes a lot of time to fulfill all their requests. Yeah, and regarding something major, maybe. So in Europe there are like ID cards, like smart ID cards, and they contain document signing certificate in it. And it would be cool to actually make it possible to sign documents with your ID card, like European ID card. And that's how you will make it, basically in Europe, there are 3 levels of signatures. And with ID card, you can receive the best qualified signature level. It requires to support hardware card readers, and I think it would be really cool to implement actually something like related to hardware, right? So let's say you can deploy open source project, you buy that hardware card reader and sign documents with it. So that's something in our roadmap, I would say. Yeah, and maybe that's the largest idea to implement so far. Yeah, and hopefully we will make it available this year.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like giving an identity stamp with the EU ID card. That's really cool. So how do you work through that feature? Like, does somebody else come up with all of the requests, like itemized things that need to get done, or is it a more back and forth, like, or is it more of like a customer comes with just the idea and then you like cash out right on your end, or is it a mix?
Yeah, it's probably a mix. Some ideas are from open source users and open source community, but also some ideas are coming from interested customers, just asking us for features they need, and that's how we learn what's needed for this industry, right? And that's how we prioritize it. That's it.
So how does like the upgrade process work as you've commercialized it, right? Like, if you wanted to upgrade the Rails version that DocuSeal is using, like, is there a big rollout of that kind of thing, or now that you have paying customers, like, is that even harder of a process to do, to upgrade the project moving forward? I'm always curious how like that upgrade transitions from an open source project from when paying customers are involved, right?
Yeah, so we are managing all versions and updates. Actually, last week we upgraded to Rails 7.1. We tried to upgrade to Ruby 3.3, but unfortunately it didn't work. So we switched back to the previous version. But yeah, we manage releases and we release Docker images. And that's how our customers and our open source users can upgrade. And with Docker, it's super easy to upgrade. You can just pull a new image, restart your app, and you're using a new version. So yeah, it's really Docker. It simplifies everything a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I am curious what issues you ran into with Ruby 3.3.
Yeah, actually, it was some bug related to Mac OS virtualization framework, I believe, because it works on Linux, but it doesn't work on Mac. And so we rolled back to the previous version because some open source users are actually using Mac Docker, right? But actually, there was a patch already committed into Ruby master branch, but still we need to wait for next release, like Ruby 3.3.1 probably. So yeah, unfortunately, we were not able to try that YJIT with all speed benefits, but that's fine. We can wait.
I know. I think everybody is looking forward to that, to just instantly get your app moving faster.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. At least the benchmarks I've seen.
Yeah, amazing work. I don't know, like implementing the JIT. It's like really complex. Yeah,
I'm glad other people do that.
yeah.
So, is there anything else you wanted to talk about DocuSeal? Because I would like to get touch a little bit on your other project, Motor Admin, which is also really cool.
Yeah, maybe I can just start with the fact that we are using Motor Admin for our DocuSeal backend, basically for customer support, because it's like admin panel, right? So we use it for customer support, managing subscriptions, creating reports, and that's how we use Motor Admin in DocuSeal, and we can continue talking about this project, I guess.
Yeah, I'm curious because I've seen Motor Admin. I want to say a couple of years ago, and it looked really interesting at the time, and I just didn't get a chance to dive into it. How does it differ from kind of some of the other admin panel gems that are out there, or is it not a gem? Is it like a standalone app on its own?
No, it's a gem. So it was created as a Ruby Rails gem, let's say as a competitor to Rails admin, right? But the main difference is that with all popular admin gems, you need to use DSL, right? You need to use their APIs, Ruby APIs, to develop admin panels. And I found this process quite inefficient. I don't know. I don't like writing code, like backend code for some admin, backend for customer support, because it's not product code. It doesn't generate more customers. It's more like routine work. I know it's boring, I would say, to build admin panels. So the idea was actually not to use DSLs. You don't need to write code with Motor Admin to customize it, but you can do all the customizations in the UI. You can just drag and drop fields. You decide which database columns you want to display in the tables. You can rename those tables, reorder them, create new like associations between tables, create new reports just with SQL. So it's more like you just plug this gem into your Rails app, and then you don't write Ruby code. You just use UI to customize your admin panel. And that's the main difference between Motor Admin and other admin projects for Rails.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. I've always it's been very painful in other admin, like you said, to like you have to use the DSL and customize how all the dashboards look and what they use. And it's great for some things and not for others. And so just dumping the database right at this thing and then configuring it on a UI definitely seems much smoother. I mean, are there any drawbacks with doing that kind of approach? Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah. Like, I'm biased, right? For me, there are no drawbacks because I'm biased. We're using it for DocuSeal. I've been using it for other projects. For me, that's the best way to create admin panels for your customer support, maybe for sales in your Rails app. Maybe is one thing people don't like is that it's not like you can customize it a lot, right? You will use this table format, you will use this report format, and you just drag and drop it and use SQL to create reports, and that's it. But for me, that's good. You don't need to spend time on some, non-essential customizations because it's your backend.
Yeah, I was curious, just looking through kind of like the features, like typically like you would get an ask after building an admin panel. Oh, we want to do like this particular business process, as a button on this form. Like it doesn't really have that kind of flexibility to it. Is that what you're saying?
No, or it actually does have. Yeah, so you can, again, let's pick traditional Rails admin report. So you need to use probably some DSL to define form fields. Let's say it's some custom action you want to onboard a new customer. And there is like email field, address, phone number, and you kind of create this form. You create controller and says how you onboard the new customer. But with Motor Admin, you actually create this form using UI. You just drag and drop fields. Let's say you need email field, phone number field, let's say some price number field, let's say attachment to upload documents. And then with this front-end form, you just need to develop API using your Ruby, Rails, JSON like API. And again, you don't need to learn DSLs because you created this form front end using MotorAdmin, drag and drop UI, and then you develop API using Ruby, and that's it. No DSLs, and that's how it works together.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at the like kind of massive form builder here. It looks
Yeah,
intimidating, but also, very flexible in what you can configure all the forms for. Super cool. I also like the custom SQL query for each of the panels. That's really cool.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give this a try again. It's been a while since I've needed an admin form, but so how is the response? I'm curious because like anytime somebody releases another admin gem, the backlash is always just like another admin tool, right?
Mm.
Has that kind of been your response, or has it been positive since it's uh, less like intrusive doesn't have that DSL aspect of it? Like, how has the community
Mm.
response been?
Yeah, the response was positive, I would say. Maybe I didn't receive negative responses because, usually if people don't understand it, they don't respond, right? They just try some other tool. But yeah, people have been using it on Ruby gems. There are maybe 200,000 installations, like gem downloads on Ruby gems. So definitely companies are using this. I don't know who has those companies. Yeah, but actually there was commercial part of MotorAdmin. So that's another story. And actually companies been contacting me trying to obtain that commercial gem with more features. It existed, but like for now, I switched to DocuSeal. So now it's just open source. I maintain it because we use it for DocuSeal, and yeah, so it's more like just maintenance mode for MotorAdmin at the moment.
So is the Motor Admin Pro not a thing yet, or are you
Yeah,
just not focusing on
it's
it?
not. No, it's not. It's not like MotorAdmin is not a thing now. It used to be a
Gotcha.
thing, but I just switched to another project.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious like how that went, right? Like how do you at what point do you say this isn't necessarily worth it to pursue for
Uh,
commercialization, right? Like maybe DocuSeal like provided more opportunity, right, than this did. What weighed it for you, like to the point where I'm getting response for commercializing a pro version of this or something like that. um were you just bored with
mm,
working on the admin tool?
mm,
you know
uh, yeah. So maybe the main reason is that the market is like really small. Like Ruby Rails market, uh, it's not a huge market, right? And unfortunately, it's not growing. Maybe things will change, but it's hard. It's hard to compete with all the Node.js, TypeScript, React ecosystem, which is super popular nowadays. And yeah, market is really small, and that's probably the main reason.
Makes sense. uh well, thank you for creating it. I'll definitely use it. um yeah, I'm curious now that that's kind of like h- where do you find time? I always ask people that are start getting into open source, where do you find time to like keep up with all the requests and make sure it stays up to date? You know, how do you balance it all?
Mm. Uh, I don't know. I'm working on weekends, and that's probably it. There are no like secrets. It just requires time. You need to work more, uh, and that's it.
Has anybody reached out to you about like sponsorship based on like them using it, or is that like kind of not a thing?
No, it's it's not a thing. But companies still contacting me asking for pro version, commercial version, and I just reply, no, sorry guys, it's not available anymore. So yeah, that's what it is.
Would you be open to partnering with somebody that took over that aspect of it for you, or are you just rather not have to deal with it at this point?
No, actually, I'm really open to transfer it to someone who is interested in improving it, developing it, just open source version, or they can commercialize it if they want to. I asked my friends, my network, if they want to pick this project for them. Unfortunately, they didn't want to. So yeah, so I'm still maintaining it. I'm not spending a lot of time, just a couple of hours on weekends. But yeah, so the project is useful. You can use it on Rails 7.1. It's battle tested, at least with DocuSeal. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, I love the tagline, instant Rails gem with a single command, or install the Rails gem with a single command, and you get your admin up. Very cool. Is it really that easy? You just install the gem and, Rails motor install
Yeah,
and you're good?
you can try it. I don't know.
That's it. That's awesome. Well, cool. I mean, we've gone through a lot here. Is there anything else other topics you want to talk about before we sign off to picks?
No, I guess that's it. We covered a lot. I would say it was a good talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, please keep up the great work on DocuSeal because I'm always looking for a document signing tool, and DocuSign is great, but open source is always better,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And I love seeing all of the PDF, manipulation in the open. Really shed some light on all the challenges there. So super interesting. I'm going to dive in some more myself.
Oh,
All right. So we're going to move on to picks now, where we kind of just pick some things that we're either interested in or want to share. It can be anything. We have people suggest games or, software or whatever is really your fancy at this moment. So to give you some time to think about it, I just got a Stream Deck by Elgato. Lets you like push buttons to perform actions on the Mac from this little pad that sits on my desk, and I can control knobs on it, kind of just like a macro pad to do all the different kinds of stuff. So I haven't really set it up yet, but I'm excited to set it up. It looks really fun. So what do you got?
Yeah, let me think. It can be anything Ruby related.
Anything you want. It doesn't have to be Ruby related.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, usually, yeah. Maybe, yeah, maybe we can talk about Ruby JIT. If I found this topic really interesting, and there are not many languages implementing JIT. Like Python, they don't have JIT, which is a much larger ecosystem. Google is promoting Python a lot, and Ruby received YJIT sooner. I found this really cool. Oh, you know what? We can. The topic I'm whining about is how Ruby is underrated and underappreciated. It's painful to recognize this. Like people are using some crazy Next.js rendering with React some TypeScript, type safety. When you have Ruby on Rails, you can build everything much faster. Like, why you are picking those like slow developer tools? What do you think? Are you like Ruby Rails maximalist, or everyone has their own preferences? And I don't
I
know.
mean, I think it depends still. Like, still a lot of like, a lot of the streaming or asynchronous stuff is not like completely built out and like ideal in the Ruby world. And I know that's getting better, like kind of thanks to Samuel Williams. uh, you know, but I think there's still some things that Ruby doesn't do great. But for like most cases, I feel like that's my preferred language. There are just like so many things that does well. And if you want to do anything on the web, like Rails just kind of like dwarfs any other framework, in my opinion, as far as the features, right? And it's just been around for so long at this point that it's so solid, and like so many like very lucrative companies are using it, right, and investing in it, and investing in Ruby. So like, uh, it's hard because, uh, yes, the JavaScript, ecosystem is very popular. And Python is very popular, especially with all of the machine learning like blowing up recently, right? And so I think my worry is, that outpacing everything else. So like, uh, if JavaScript and Python move forward as like the de facto languages because that's where the machine learning world is, and that's all that matters anymore, then that is a concern, right? And I love all of the kind of the work that's been coming out from, all of the data people working on, PyTorch for Ruby and things like that, to help bring a lot of the Python, focus out of the, data world. It doesn't have to be just Python, and so with more people in the Ruby world focusing on that, I think it has a chance in the
Mm,
long run. But near term, I don't think there's any issue developing in Ruby still.
mm.
It is just like a, you know, like I said, if you're working on web, like your performance is just going to be like huge, in comparison to some of the other frameworks out there. If you're using
Yeah,
Rails,
yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah, actually, with Python and Ruby, just to compare the two languages, it's so unfortunate that Ruby didn't pick the place of Python, because in theory, it could have been Ruby. Languages are really similar design, uh, even syntaxes. It's quite similar, but the thing is that Ruby was developed by a Japanese guy, we know him, and Python was developed, I believe, from a person from French, but then he started working for Google, and that's pretty much it. So Google boosted Python a lot, and unfortunately, Ruby was not picked by super large companies, by Amazon, Google, Facebook, and that's it. But it could have been Ruby. Maybe in some alternative universe, all ML machine learning stuff is written in Ruby. I don't see any reasons why it's not possible. It's more like just randomly Python was picked by Google because that's what happened, and that's how all the ecosystem with Python was developed.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. I mean, especially with ChatGPT now, like, just make this Python work like Ruby. uh, you know,
Mm,
I, yeah, I feel like maybe that's good, maybe it's bad, right? But it's not gonna matter, in the end run. You're just gonna have to be able to talk to the large language models the right way. That's my fear. I don't want to have to be having a conversation with a computer all day. I'd rather just get it to do what I want.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was great talking to you, Pete. You know, I think this is a great place to stop. You know, check out DocuSeal for all those out there looking for signing documents. Great open source project by Pete here. And Motor Admin, really. If you're interested in taking over, you know, reach out to him. And that's a great segue here. How can people find you if they want to reach out to you, Pete?
Yeah, they can find me on GitHub, ask questions in related repositories, but also they can join our Discord community, DocuSeal community, and you can just text me in Discord. It's super easy. You can use direct messages, or you can use public channel, ask questions, or just to say hi. And yeah, that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on and sharing your story here. I love seeing you know, successful open source projects, you know, take on commercialization, and you know, you being able to work for yourself, you know, thanks to all of the ecosystem that already exists. Really awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. It was a great talk, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, until next time, folks, I'm Valentino Stoll, and this has been Ruby Rogues.